great parenting isn't the weekend birthday parties. It's Monday through Friday, 7 a to 7 p. Caleb Williams was flashy last year. Caleb Williams is still flashy this year. But you want to know why he's the highest graded quarterback? It's all the masonry. He proves that young, talented quarterbacks, even super, hyper-talented quarterbacks, they just need a baseline of support and common sense. Ben Johnson takes this job. Does he say, Caleb, I want more zany, flashy plays? No. The first thing he addresses, we got to get better at guard, center, guard. Not even the most dynamic offensive line positions. The big uglies in the middle of the O-line. They get Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. They get Joe Tooney. Guard, center, guard. The second thing he says, hey, I got to ask you something, Caleb. Can you not run backwards? I want to eliminate the negative plays and the pre-snap penalties. Two basic masonry laying brick needs. And suddenly, he's the hottest quarterback in the league. Because when you're not 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 or 2nd and 28 because you got sacked running backwards, you run the ball better and you run the ball more often, and that helps the quarterback. Now, Patrick Mahomes, the way he entered the league, Hall of Fame coach, great GM, great owner, Hall of Fame tight end, Pro Bowl wide receiver, that car had no flat tires. And Caleb entered the Bears with Eberflus and that staff and a bad O-line. There were 4 flat tires. But Caleb was not terrible last year. He was wildly flashy, 20 touchdowns, 6 picks. It's all the little stuff that makes great parenting and great quarterback. Yeah, we have much better protection, guard, center, guard. We don't have any negative plays, pre-snap stuff. What did Belichick say about Brady? With Tom, you're always playing in front of the sticks. It's never 1st and 15. It's never 2nd and 22. Move the ball ahead. Because the wild, dynamic running thing, that is really, really easy for Caleb Williams. That's innate. That's natural. That's going to come. Caleb's success this year is on all the minutia of the NFL. Guard play. No pre-snap penalties. Last week, Minnesota had 8. Last week, the Rams had no penalties, either side. Efficiency matters whether you're at Meta, Fox Sports, or the Bears. The Bears are just they're more efficient. They're more stable. I was looking at Caleb Williams' passer rating last year. It was 88. This year, it's 92. You look at yards per attempt, 6.3 to 7.3. It's not that different. The one thing you see, the sacks, no negative plays. Therefore, you can establish a run game. Therefore, you're throwing on play action. You couldn't run the ball last year for Chicago. Between the sacks and the pre-snap stuff, you were throwing it because you had to throw it. Now you throw it because you want to throw it.
All right, let's have a conversation about something that I find absolutely captivating in the world of professional football. I want to talk about the Chicago Bears and their fan base, and the fascinating, often chaotic relationship they have with the national sports media. More specifically, I want to delve into the phenomenon surrounding their young quarterback, Caleb Williams, and the incredibly volatile narrative cycle that has defined his early career. If we rewind the clock to the moment Caleb was drafted, the atmosphere wasn't just excited. It was borderline euphoric, and not just in Chicago. Across the NFL media landscape, there was this palpable sense of anticipation. The league, and the countless voices that cover it, had been eyeing the Chicago market for years. Here you have one of the most iconic franchises in all of sports, located in a massive, sports-crazed city, with a fan base whose passion is legendary. Yet, for the longest time, that potential energy felt dormant. There was no central figure at the quarterback position to truly unite behind, no sustained success on the field to galvanize that immense passion. It was like having a powerful engine with no spark plug. The drafting of Caleb Williams was that spark plug. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. It was as if everyone collectively said, "This is it. We're about to see the Chicago Bears, the real Chicago Bears, awaken." The market was going to be electrified. The content would be endless, and the entire league would feel the ripple effect. I remember observing this shift firsthand. The engagement, the comments, the sheer voltage of excitement in every discussion about the Bears was unmistakable. It was through the roof. Of course, with that kind of energy comes a certain kind of narrative. Almost immediately, we saw the emergence of the most optimistic takes imaginable. Super Bowl predictions in year one, MVP conversations for a rookie, the whole 9 yards. And I'll be completely transparent with you. It's incredibly tempting to lean into that. It's like playing a song that everyone already knows and loves. The crowd goes wild, the engagement metrics soar, and everything feels positive. But I also felt a need to inject a note of caution. I remember saying at the time that we needed to be mindful of these conversations, because they can become intoxicating. They create a feedback loop of expectation that can be difficult to manage. It's easy to get swept up in the tide of optimism, but the reality of the NFL is often much more complex and unforgiving. Then, as we know, that initial season did not follow the storybook script that so many had eagerly written. The team faced its share of struggles, as all young teams with a rookie quarterback inevitably do. And what was the media's response? A predictable and swift pendulum swing in the opposite direction. The same ecosystem that was once salivating over the Bears' potential was now feasting on their shortcomings. The narrative shifted from Super Bowl bound to, is Caleb Williams already a bust? The conversations became about what was wrong with the quarterback, what was wrong with the coaching, and why this grand experiment was failing. The Bears fan base was still the target, still the center of attention, but the tone had completely flipped from celebratory to critical. It was a classic case of building something up only to tear it down, all in the name of maintaining engagement. Now, we find ourselves at the beginning of a new chapter, and the cycle is beginning anew. The desire to tap into that passionate Chicago fan base hasn't faded one bit. The offseason brought a new offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, and with him, a fresh wave of speculation. We saw the typical preseason overreactions. One solid drive in August led to proclamations that Caleb and Ben Johnson were about to revolutionize the offense, while a subsequent stalled drive prompted concerns about disorganization and a lack of synergy. It's a weekly, sometimes daily, roller coaster. And here we are today, just a couple of weeks into the new season, and the narrative has taken another sharp turn. Now the talk is all about Caleb Williams being one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, the Bears as a legitimate playoff contender, and how everything is finally clicking. Let me be perfectly clear. I am not here to pour cold water on that optimism. There are genuine reasons for excitement, but I feel a responsibility to point out the obvious. This entire situation remains incredibly I'm going to be straight with you, because I think someone needs to be. While everyone else is content to ride these wild waves of public opinion, up one week with euphoric praise, down the next with harsh criticism, I'm trying to navigate them with a clearer perspective. Let's be real for a moment. Imagine a scenario where, say, next week, the Bears lose to the Minnesota Vikings. And in that game, imagine their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, outplays Caleb Williams. Just picture the immediate shift in the media conversation. The headlines would write themselves. Is J.J. McCarthy already the better quarterback? Does McCarthy have the leadership qualities that Williams lacks? I'm not predicting this will happen. This is a zero prediction zone. But the mere possibility highlights how thin the ice is. I've even joked that part of me wants to see a couple of weeks of struggle. Not because I wish any ill will on the player or the team, but purely to observe the sociological phenomenon. To see how quickly the narrative machine can reverse course. I find it genuinely fascinating from a psychological standpoint. It's a masterclass in how sports media operates, how quickly public perception can be molded and remolded, and how little it sometimes has to do with the long-term arc of a player's development. Now, with all that said, I do believe there has been a subtle but important shift in the foundation. I think the absolute basement level of sentiment towards Caleb and this Bears team has been elevated. There was a segment of the media and the fan base that was genuinely and almost excitedly preparing for the possibility of a catastrophic failure. They were ready with the "I told you so" takes if this team, with its new quarterback and its investment in the offensive line, had stumbled out of the gate. There was an appetite for that story. However, the early positive signs seem to have mitigated that somewhat. It feels like the conclusion-drawing mechanism has been recalibrated. Even if the Bears were to fall just short of the playoffs, let's say they finish as the 9th seed, just on the outside looking in, the prevailing narrative would likely be one of significant improvement. The conversation would focus on the clear progress made in year one of the Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson era, and there would be a wave of optimism heading into the following season. Similarly, if they were to make the playoffs as a wildcard team and get soundly defeated in the first round, I believe the feeling would still be largely positive. It would be seen as a valuable learning experience, a necessary step in the growth of a young team. This reminds me a lot of the sentiment around the Denver Broncos last season with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The circumstances are different, of course, but the pattern of perception is similar. Even though they were eliminated decisively in their playoff game, the overall takeaway was that the foundation was solid, the future was bright, and the momentum was building. There wasn't a widespread sense of disappointment, but rather one of anticipation for what was to come. That positive momentum carried through the entire offseason. I think the Bears are in a position to secure a similar baseline of goodwill, regardless of the weekly ups and downs. But let me circle back to my central point, because it's crucial. Despite this elevated floor, we are still navigating extremely fragile territory. The NFL world has a short memory and an insatiable appetite for the next big story. One poor performance can trigger a cascade of doubt, and one stellar performance from a rival can invite unfavorable comparisons. The stability of the narrative is an illusion. So I'll leave you with these thoughts. I've absolutely laid out my perspective on the fickle nature of the narrative surrounding this team. But this is a dialogue, and I'm genuinely curious about what you all think. With Caleb Williams reportedly being one of the highest-graded quarterbacks over the last couple of weeks, has he already shifted the identity of this franchise? Do you believe the Chicago Bears, with this current combination of talent and coaching, have already solidified themselves as a playoff team? What are your realistic expectations for the rest of this season? I read every single comment you post below. Whether you agree with me completely, think I'm completely off base, or fall somewhere in the middle, I want to hear from you. Let's get some great discussions going. Let's debate, and most importantly, let's have some fun talking about this incredible sport. We're building a fantastic community here, one focused on smart, passionate conversation, and I would love for you to be a part of it. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It truly helps us grow and connect with more fans like you. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It might seem like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference in helping the algorithm share our conversation with others. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll be reading your comments.